You're listening to viewSource, a conversation around tech, web development, and WordPress with hosts Aurooba Ahmed, that's me, and Brian Coords.
Okay, Aurooba, I've got an opening question for you for today's episode. You ready for this?
Yes.
All right. What do you think in your mind, like the first thing that comes to your mind as like the kind of most surprising or breakthrough tech thing to happen to maybe our industry in like, I don't know, the last year?
AI is like everywhere, right? It's like all this automated artificial intelligence generation, text, images. I remember in June, people were like, yeah, we're like 6 months away from anything kind of good. No. Or sorry, 10 months or something. But like 6 months later, it's amazing.
I find that every time I say something where I'm like, oh, they won't be able to ever do this. Now I start going like, well, that's what I thought about, that's what I thought about, writing mediocre essays on things, and it's doing a really good job of that.
Yes. I remember when people would try to like plagiarize, and I'm just like, now you don't even have to try to plagiarize yourself. It will plagiarize for you, and it will not even be plagiarism.
Yeah, it'll plagiarize the way that not me. I would have never done this in high school. I would never admit to have doing this in high school. But the way where you hand somebody something and you're like, copy my answers, but like change it a little bit so it doesn't look like, and then also like you get like two things wrong on purpose just so you don't get a perfect score because you want to make sure it looks like you were kind of trying. That's exactly what's happening. It's like,
yes,
here's an essay. It's just somebody else's words rewritten, and half of it is in fact factually incorrect.
Yes, or even more than half. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
I knew that was going to be your answer. I think the harder question would have been like, what's the second thing after? Because I think AI it's just so obvious. It's like there's no competition.
Yeah, I'd have to think about it. But you know what? I bet you anyone listening to this, that would have been their first answer. Like all of us. AI. Because it's like everywhere right now, It's the only thing we're talking about, really.
Yeah.
But that's not the only thing we want to talk about on this podcast, right? We want to talk about quite a few different things.
Like how good you are at making segues.
That was a good segue. I didn't even plan that.
Yeah, that felt like it felt too good. You should throw in some errors and like don't be that good because then I'm gonna think you're an AI.
Yes, exactly. I don't want to be ChatGPT, please. Yeah, but I guess we will talk about stuff like ChatGPT and how it relates to development especially, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I would say WordPress development is sort of where we both live. So I think that's kind of always going to be a recurring theme, don't you think?
Oh, yeah, totally. I live in WordPress. I code every day in WordPress. But obviously our interests are not just in WordPress, but like things that are adjacent to WordPress as well, right? So things like maybe like Laravel or just other Shopify, like code libraries. Yes.
WooCommerce.
That's WordPress.
Yeah. But like Shopify, other e-commerce platforms, SaaS versus WordPress, open source
versus proprietary.
Like yeah. All of that stuff. Accessibility. I know.
Basically, it's about the web, right?
Yeah, and making things for other people. And getting better at that. Yeah, making them good.
How it is when you're making things for clients and just like figuring out complicated issues that you didn't see coming and how we handle that as developers, right? I think that's also like a theme for us.
I think we both have the developer urge to optimize and automate everything we're doing. Like I want a workflow, I want a Google Doc, I want it written down, I want Trello to automatically, Zapier to my Slack, all of that stuff. So I think there's a whole world of sort of client management, project management, business management, combined with WordPress, entrepreneurship, development. I think both you and I are like jack of all trades, where we're probably like cocktail party level knowledge to talk about something like Tailwind, but I'm not going to go teach a Tailwind course, but like I can talk about it enough so that you think I know a lot about it. And I think that that's what a
Yes.
lot of us have to do. That's how you thrive in web development nowadays. You
Yeah,
just
especially when you're working on client projects, right? That are like going to change project to project those requirements and you don't know what's going to happen or what's going to come.
Yeah, and if you want to know, am I going to use a plugin? Am I going to code it from scratch? Am I going to use a library?
Yeah.
Who am I going to talk to? Who am I going to bring on this project? How much time do I really think it's going to take? How much time am I going to pretend like it's going to take? How much time will I lie to myself and say it'll take? All those questions.
Yeah, but also the fact that even though we need to have so much shallow knowledge about so many different topics, there's also aspects that we need deep knowledge on and need to work on deepening even more so that we can be really effective at our jobs.
And that's a
Yeah.
good transition to sort of our background and our experience level. I think we should each give a little bit of a background in case people don't know who we are, which is crazy because we're clearly famous. But basically, what's our own background? What's our development? You got to have like a 2 sentence. I'll give you more. I'll give you 5 sentences, bio and background in web development.
All right. I learned HTML so that I could make Inuyasha fan sites when I was 12 years old. And then I got into WordPress and learned about like more dynamic web development when my dad started a nonprofit and he needed a website he could edit himself. And ever since then, I have freelanced and worked with a billion different clients, and I love what I do. Go, you.
So my background was not in web development other than being, the high school nerd who wrote HTML on my GeoCities websites with my friends. But my background was actually in teaching and public education. And then it sort of somehow ended up into a place where I was building websites, and that just consumed my life. And WordPress was a big part of that. So my experience now mostly is around building websites, but also educating other developers at the agency I work at, and also just a lot of writing in the WordPress space and posting opinions on things, as one tends to do in the age of the internet.
Yeah, I think we both really care about teaching. Like that's a recurring theme for both of us. And like I'm trying to also get more, teach a lot more and get like, I care about educating other developers so that they are able to do their job even better. So yeah, I think that is something that brings us together and is also a motivation for this podcast. Like I think that there's just not enough transparency around like how do you handle a certain type of issue or a certain type of problem in the WordPress space or even outside of it. And this is a space for us to sort of talk about real world client situations, client project situations, without necessarily talking about the clients directly. Because I feel like that's just like a missing hole in like the conversations in our industry.
I feel like when we first talked about doing this podcast, you and I both made a list of things about ourselves, and it was like very opposites. It was like, I live in Canada, and I'm like, I live in Southern California. And like we had this whole list of like very opposite things that like really didn't line up. But then now, after working through this and some projects and stuff together, I think we've realized that we have things where we're exactly the opposite and then things where we're exactly the same. And so I think it'll
Yeah.
be fun to bring that to the conversation where it's like we have a lot of different experience, a lot of different ways we like to do things. But there's this kind of universal aspect to being a web developer that once you start talking to another web developer, you realize like, oh, we've all had the same things. We all have the same
Yes.
feelings about hosting companies. We all have the same experience with the same bugs and all that sort of stuff. So I think it's going to be
Yeah.
fun to sort of like dig into those weird common ground areas and those weird like disagreement areas.
100%. I'm looking forward to all of those conversations.
Should we have the conversation? I mean, you brought this up, so I'm just throwing it out there, which is why we picked each other as co-hosts for a podcast. Do you?
I knew that I wanted to have a podcast with you because we did jam well. Like when we started talking, it was like there's a lot of things where I felt like I could learn from you, but also a lot of things where, like, conceptually and on principle, we both agreed. Like, we thought about a lot of things the same way. And because you have experience in aspects and in types of projects that I don't, I was like, okay, this is the person that I can talk to, and I can share my experience and also learn a lot from his experience. So that was part of my motivation.
Yeah, mine was very similar. I was, I think I spend a lot of my time more in the writing place, and I think you spend a lot of your time just building and shipping things. So there's like, you have a lot of just things that exist out there that people find useful. So I kind of thought, wow, that's a place where I want to like learn and move and kind of understand that. I also am pretty sure that we decided to have a podcast before I think we even really got to know each other. And so
Yes.
And I think luckily it's all worked out, but that was, I think it was a mystical, like force, like planets aligning sort of a situation on some
Yeah,
level.
you're right. When the idea first came up, I was just like, yeah, this is something I want to do. Okay, let's just do it. And then in the process of making this happen is how we actually got to know each other, right?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know if you're like me. I also like always wanted to start a podcast because I think everybody wants to start a podcast, just like everybody
Really?
wants to write a novel or something. I think everybody wants to write a novel. I think everybody wants to write a podcast or do a podcast.
Yes, I want to do both those things. So,
You do, right?
yes.
Admit it. You want to write a
Yes,
novel.
of course.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think there's definitely a sense where you're like, I don't really just want to talk to myself. There's a lot of really good interview podcasts in WordPress that exist, and I'm glad those are there, and I listen to them. But every week it's like the same person is on 4 different podcasts for the same thing. So I really like the idea of a conversation between two people that's going to go, just in different places every time.
I also like the idea of the people listening to go along on the ride and learn about us. And as we go through our journey and figuring things stuff out too, I think that adds a level of familiarity and context that just becomes more valuable as you listen to more and more of the episodes. It's like when you have your favorite blogger and you've been reading their writing forever and you know so much about them just from all of this. And it just makes every new post feel even more valuable and better because of it.
Yeah, and hopefully, there won't be any unhealthy, parasocial relationships. Like, I know that you want to take this into like a weird alt-right space, and I've kind of been fighting against that. But no, I feel the same way. Just I do feel like you made it sound like I'm maybe some sort of an expert, and when people realize that's just not true, and I'm just don't really know what I'm talking about, they're going to be disappointed. But ultimately, I think that's your fault for saying that about me.
I can take full responsibility because you are an expert, so it's okay.
I'm an expert at looking like an expert, which I think leads us into release format. Do you want to give a preview of what the average format length will feel like and how often we're going to release?
I think weekly is a good cadence for us, to have this conversation. And I think when we first started talking about it, we knew that we didn't want to have like a super long podcast. It's definitely never going to be an hour-long conversation, right?
Yeah, I think it's at a certain point, if I don't even like listening to my own thoughts for more than like an hour in a week. So I think, I don't want people to get into a weird, unhealthy space where they feel like they have to listen to, us for that long.
Yeah. I mean, we ramble as it is enough in other social spaces.
Yeah, and I haven't seen us do a lot of editing, so
Yeah.
a lot of that gets left in, for better or worse.
Yes. So I can promise you that this is going to be a conversation that is very natural and very candid in almost every episode, because nobody wants to go back and edit. Come on now.
Yeah, this is going to be a weekly, potentially 30-minute conversation, very unedited. There's probably going to be times where we maybe don't know what we're talking about, but we're learning from each other. And I think, I think people can relate to that.
100%. And I think it makes it a more interesting conversation. So, we set up a website. It's viewsource.fm. And we have a newsletter, so you can subscribe if you'd rather get the links to the episodes in your inbox. And this is also a video podcast, right, Brian?
Yeah. I'm going to apologize in advance that you're just going to be looking at this. I'm hoping there'll be some screen sharing. I'm hoping there's going to be an AI that just kind of like, filters this, but for now it's going to just be this face. So
yeah, so we have a YouTube channel, so you can subscribe there as well, and we'll be posting the video podcasts there at the same time as posting it in our regular podcast area so that you can get it in whatever your favorite app is.
Now tell me my last question, closing question. Do you prefer podcasts and audio, or are you a YouTube video podcast person?
When I'm doing chores, then audio, but if I'm at my computer, then video. So I think that's why it makes so much sense to me that we're doing both formats. Good.
I'm going to let you lead that because I don't know that I've ever watched a video podcast. So
never? Okay.
No, I don't think so.
I watched quite a few.
I like a video essay, like a really highly edited video essay, but
yeah.
I've never so if I'm bad at it, now you know why.
Well, we hope that you'll follow along and listen with us, and the first episode should be dropping next week.
Yeah, we'll see you then. Visit viewsource.fm for the latest updates and links to the show notes. Review and subscribe to ViewSource in iTunes, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts.